Anyway, it's been a long damn time since we got to talk about music. Some things have come up, and that's okay. We're not going anywhere. We just had to take some time off. There was a lot of moving pieces. We'll dive into some of that. Um, but it's what you spent in episode 111, 111, baby. Uh, gonna kick it over to my day ones, Jake and Matt. How the hell are you boys doing on this fine Sunday afternoon?
Good. I'm glad to be home. Glad to be somewhere familiar, doing something familiar with people familiar faces. It's nice. It's good.
Yeah, doing well. It's been a busy weekend, but now we're kind of relaxing at home and getting back to our normal routine and talking about three great albums today. So it's been good.
Hell yeah. We got a little bit to cover here at the beginning. There's been some cool stuff that's gone on. Matt and I had our card show yesterday at the Graduate Hotel. Got some pretty cool stuff. Matt is a real one and hooked it up with some good stuff in regards to discounts and cool shit. I love that. I looked up that Jackson Dart card after I texted you because you just
Mhm.
laughed at my message and never responded. I pulled it up and I was like, oh, that's why he doesn't care, is because it's fucking $4. Okay, cool. On a good day, it's $4. So that was really cool. It was fun to, like Matt, you said this off mic, but getting to see familiar faces from the last show or other shows that you've gone to, or the little events I've done, motherfuckers like Kenny, Dennis, Trev, and Katie, I think is his partner's name.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like good people all around. Alana from Small Town Cards. Just like we said, just good to get out there and uh, do something different. Every time I do one of these events, whether it was the trade day at Hookers or the full show yesterday, I'm like, fuck, I just love this. And I just want to keep doing more. So that was really fun. Jake, we might end up in Bend at the end of August for a card show. And so we'll make your ass come along with us.
Let me know. I will be
Just
there.
saying.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fun.
that would be super fun. Yeah. Anybody listening to anything cool music wise over the past month and change?
Yeah, I have been all over the place. A bunch of newer artists, revisits. Recently, I've been the last couple of weeks listening to. I don't know if you guys have heard of Vegan or Vegan. It's spelled like Vegyn. Um,
Yes. Love that
from
guy.
yeah,
Yep.
awesome. Love his music. But he has like
Incredible.
a side project called Headache. And there's an album. It's called The Head Hurts, but the Body Knows the Truth. And it's pretty interesting. I've heard it a couple of times. It's like the same electronic style music, like beats and stuff going on, mixed in with like just kind of weird introspective lyrics.
Okay.
So at some point, it's like you're trying to decipher what the song is about or what the message is, but it's also like, hey, I was on my way to the walk and a turtle hit my foot, and then he told me the meaning of life. It's like something that makes no sense, but I feel like there's some meaning to it. So, um, thought that one was pretty cool.
Hell
Nice.
yeah.
I'm interested in that. What is it, the band again or the artist?
It's called Headache.
Headache. Okay.
Yeah. And if you like that, check out Vegan because that's the one that Jake and I both know. I haven't listened to Headache. I have that jotted down here though, but love Vegan. Uh a couple of his songs are on my ambient vibe playlist, so love that shit. Good hunting, Jake. Good stuff. Matt, what about you? You got anything cool?
Just revisits. You talked about acoustics yesterday before the show, and so I threw that album on from Floater. Such a good album. This probably should be brought up out of any Floater album that we have left to talk about. Probably should talk about that one.
I would say.
Dots and Loops by Stereolab.
Love that album.
Never listened to that album entirely in full, and I did that this last week, and it's for being from 1997, it's fucking ahead of its time by so much, and it just blows my mind that a lot of people don't know about the album.
Hmm.
I've just been down to that, and then that's about it. Just familiar faces and the albums we were talking about today.
Hell yeah. You know, Dots and Loops is great. I have that on vinyl, and
Ooh.
it's a treat. It's a real
Where
treat.
did you
That's a
find
good
that?
dinner album.
Where did you find that on
Um,
vinyl?
shit. Um, that might have been a Moonrock find, actually. That might have been
Okay.
like a random. You know how sometimes you find absolute heat at Moonrock? Because I mean, you
Yeah.
usually find something that you want to buy, but
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, oh shit, dude, that was one of those. And
Nice.
I never saw it again. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, it was nice
Uh,
going into Moon Rock and seeing Arm and Hammer on display with new
oh,
albums. It's like
yeah.
finally, finally.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. And they had hiding places when we were there. Well, I fucking bought Today I Wrote Nothing when we all went
Yep.
by Billy. Hell yeah. Me personally, when we first attempted the to podcast and it just ended up not working out about a month ago. Jake and I were supposed to play Elden Ring together, but I fell asleep. I asked him to help me make a West Side Gun playlist because I was like listening to the like handful of songs that I knew, and I was like put them in a playlist. And I said, Jake, I just sent it to him, and I said, if you get a wild hair, help me build this thing out. And for a solid like 2.5 weeks, I was on a heavy West Side Gun slash like Mock kick. Uh, I just it's a I think I was explaining it to Jake. I was like, you know, when it like finally clicks, like, you know, you listen to an artist and you're like, oh, I fuck with some of their stuff, and then you listen to something and it finally it might be a song you've listened to 1,000 times and it finally sends you over and you're like, nah, this guy fucking rules. And so that was I went through that about a month plus ago with
Hey yo.
West Side. Hey yo, with that doo 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 all over the track. Fucking so
Yep.
great stuff. Jake and I were talking about potentially bringing up another West Side Gun project, but I think that would be one that would be like a collaborative decision between the two of us. So we bring up one that's like real good, but also out there. Um, yeah, that's Super Fly God. Let me reiterate it, man. Great shit there. Other than that, I've also been listening to a lot of Floater still. Floater Tool. I was listened to Mare de Noms like last week. Gave that one a good solid 2 day love sesh. So yeah, as you guys said, kind of some revisits. But outside of that, last weekend, last Saturday, we all remember friend of the show, Alex, give him a big shout out. He had hit me up early in May and asked if I was doing anything on the 20th last week. And I said no. And he said, cool, let's go up to Washington and see Kid Cudi in concert. And I said, abso-fucking-lutely. And then as we're leading up to the show, like 4 days before the gig, I look it up and it's at Cascades Amphitheater where we saw the fucking Santa tour. And I was like, dude, I love that venue. It's so sick. And so we went and Big Boy was one of his openers. Of Outcast fame, which is such a trip because the way that they like
Wow.
introduced him, it was like Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, one half of hip hop pioneers Outcast, Big Boy, and Sleepy Brown was like his backup guy. And so it was just fucking killer. You know, we get uh obviously Big Boy solo stuff, but all the hits. Like Rosa Parks was one of the first songs he played, and so I was like, "Oh fuck, dude."
Damn.
He did AT Aliens into Rosa Parks into Aquemini, dude. It was fucking disgusting.
Wow.
It was so gross.
Damn.
So did he just do both parts, or did somebody else do Andre's parts, or how did that work out?
He didn't like do a ton like so like Andre's ad libs that would happen during Big Boy verses. He had Sleepy Brown, who's like kind of a weird associated old head. I remembered I was like, oh shit. He would do them, but like yeah, they would just do like Big Boy's halves of the songs mainly. And then, you know, obviously with that, like a lot of stuff off of which part of the speaker box the love below like he did some songs
Mm.
off of that double album so yeah it was incredible. Alex and I and his buddy Matt a different Matt we were all just sitting there fucking getting it, and then Kid Cudi came out and dude, oh my God, I fell in love with, I was like, dude, this guy, I literally went back and listened to like all the old albums of his that I would just play the fuck out of when I was in high school or like, you know, when I was fresh, when I was like starting to, you know, get into my 20s and smoking a lot of weed, you know, it was just very reminiscent, made me go back down that rabbit hole. Um, it's one of those that like you see somebody live and then it reignites your interest in them. And then, you know, that was an artist I hadn't delved into for like fuck, the better part of 6 years, 6 to 7 years,
Mhm.
I hadn't really listened to him, and I was like, oh shit, a lot of this is like way more poignant now, from a lyric standpoint. He played Mr. Rager, and I thought I was having like an out of body experience, and I was on zero psychedelics. Like I was just hitting a dab pen all day. Um, and after Mr. Rager ended, I like grabbed Matt and Alex, and I was like, I'm not saying I'm gonna go to church tomorrow, but I think something just changed in me, man. I was like that fucked me up in the best way possible. So that was incredible. Just that venue's sick. His stage production that he had going on was incredible as well. Shout out Kid Cudi. It was a totally like not didn't forget about him, but I was like, I forgot how much I loved his music. So that was a fucking blast.
That's
Damn.
cool, man. I've never listened to him at all, so now I'm intrigued the way you just talked about him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Noted.
Okay.
Noted.
Mm.
Hell yeah. Well, without further ado, do we want to dive on in?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm down. Let's do it.
Sweet. Sounds good, guys. Well, that was our little intro. We are super stoked to continue on in today's episode and talking about these albums. We've had a lot of time to listen to them, so I'm sure we've all got a lot to say about them. I know I sure as hell do. It's three fucking classic albums with three classic good guys. Just a classic ep of What You Spinnin'. It's episode 111. Go ahead and stick around for me. We'll be back in two shakes of a lamb's ass. Have a good one. All right, fellas, let's get down to business. I'm super stoked to be here, super stoked to be chatting about three great albums. It's What You Spin in episode 111. I'm Dorian, and as always, I am joined by Matt and Jake, my real ones since day one. We are going to kick it off with my pick for this week. As I said in the intro, we've got three classic albums today, all of them before Y2K. So that's pretty freaking cool.
Mhm.
We're revisiting a year that we've talked about. A lot of really good albums came out in this year or within the last part of this decade, that decade being the 70s, specifically 1977, with Animals by Pink Floyd. Incredible, incredible album. We've mentioned this in passing quite a bit. As we saw Floater ring in the new year by playing their own album Alter and then playing Animals. And holy shit, that shows the reason why I'm so into this album. This is my favorite Pink Floyd album, I would probably say. At this point, it's a ask me in 6 months, it'll probably be The Wall again. Um, but anyway, I digress and we continue. Yeah, Animals Pink Floyd 1977. Let me reference my notes here. It is their 10th studio album. But I will pass it over to my boys. What do you guys have to say about it? What do you think?
I'm so glad that you brought this up just because it incorporates all three of us. We all went and saw Floater, like you mentioned. They did this album in full, an amazing show. They killed it with this album, the way they played it, the way they just presented it. It was perfect. Like you couldn't ask for anything more visually and musically, it was great. And now we get to talk about the real album by Pink Floyd. This is 2 years before The Wall. It's a very political album talking about some of the issues going on in Britain, I think is where it is. This is it's not like a short album, but it's kind of long because the songs are drawn out a little bit, but it's almost like one full song because things change a little bit throughout the album, but I don't know. It's hard to pick your favorite song because it just all blends well together. And Pink Floyd, you got David Gilmour, Roger Waters doing their thing, and then Nick Mason on the drums, Richard Wright on the keys. These guys are just amazing, like artistic musicians is the best way that I can put this. Like each album that they produced and put out was visually and musically just ahead of its time. And this is just another great example of that. So it's short and sweet. It's got some great tracks. I love this album. And again, like I said when I introduced it, being able to see this album performed by Floater, who's one of our favorite bands that we've talked about on the cast many times, was just a treat. So I'm glad that we're talking about this today.
Hell yes. Love it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what's already been said. The Floater show, I remember clearly. Great show, great visuals. The actual like their display of this album, it was very well done. That was my first listening of Animals. I hadn't heard this album yet from Pink Floyd. So now listening to the real thing, I see why it's inspired and still gets played at shows and different bands want to cover it because it's timeless. It's timeless. It's a classic album, timeless album. Great vocals, the harmonies are great. The playing is fantastic too. Songs will take you on this journey where it's slow, it's fast. It's songs like Dogs where it's almost 20 minutes long. It's 17 minutes of just a fucking movie. It's really is like it puts into perspective like different settings and times and a bunch of different sequences throughout the song are all over the place. So it's very well done, and I love how the intro and the ending is Pigs on the Wing. It's like a perfect, just ties it up in a bow so beautifully. The album. It's like, hey, this is what we're presenting. This is what it is. We're gonna switch it up here in the middle, and then the ending bring you back. This is what we started. This is how we started. This is how we're gonna end it. So beautiful album. I see why a lot of people like it. I also really like it. From this and The Wall, them being right next to each other. I mean, they were doing great stuff. So it's a great, fantastic album.
Hell yeah. No, and the fact, I mean, you look at this album and it falls 10th in their discography, as I mentioned, and it's right before The Wall. And it's like you have an album come out like this. We've talked about stuff that came out even prior to this, that it's like the early trajectory of Pink Floyd before they like truly broke up was so fucking crazy. Like albums 1 through 11, there's a lot of just some of the craziest stuff on it. And this album, if you go back and watch the episode when we talked about the wall, I mentioned, hey, I brought this up, but I'll do it again because relevance. Um, this was the album that inspired the wall. This is the tour, it was called the In the Flesh tour, and that was what alienated Roger Waters from performing, really, and what inspired him to write the wall. And it's just insane. It's so that connection alone is fucking crazy. And we've given the wall plenty of love, and maybe someday that video will see the light of day, but of us watching the movie. But uh yeah, man, it's like you said, Matt, it's them, really playing like they're at such a high level, they just dogs in and of itself, the way that this album's laid out, only five songs, just masterpiece, just truly a masterpiece of an album. I'm really glad that we get to talk about it. Because again, it's 1977. There's a lot of great shit going on then, man.
And being it's their 10th album, it's insane to know that they've had all this work up before that. It's like most bands or most musicians don't make 10 albums. Like it's insane. And this is just great, And they did kind of part ways and Pink Floyd continued without Roger Waters and made some great music as well. I don't want to take anything away from that, but uh this is such a good album. It showcases both aspects of what Floyd did musically with the electric guitar and then just the acoustic guitar. There's a lot of great acoustic Pink Floyd songs. And I felt like they blended both sounds really well together on this album. And 5 tracks, like I said before, it feels like one long song, and this is such a good album. Yeah, I'm glad we brought it up, and we're glad we're talking about it.
It's crazy looking at their discography that before this, they did Wish You Were Here, and before that, they did Dark Side of the Moon.
That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah, it's insane.
That's, yeah, that's crazy. Um,
And so
So many
here's
good
the
albums.
thing.
So many good albums, right?
Right. And here's the fucking crazy thing about it, right? Like you just named four albums. So we've got Animals, The Wall, Wish You Were Here, and Dark Side. There are people that are a huge fan of only one of those albums. They've never heard any of the other ones. Like
mhm.
that's how good those fucking albums are. Those are staples in any record collection.
Yeah.
If you have at least one of them. I like most record collections I've sifted through at people's houses have at least one of those four albums.
Mhm.
And just the disconnect from that, I'm in uh I'm in the Pink Floyd Circle Jerk subreddit, which is just like people posting memes like making fun of Pink Floyd fans. And it's like the scene from Breaking Bad where Walter's tied up and he like falls down and like cries in the desert. And it's like The wall motherfuckers when they hear this for the first time and it's that guitar bend and dogs and it's just like
Nice.
it's because
Yeah.
there is this massive disconnect of people just being into one album by Pink Floyd, which there's nothing wrong with that, but the point I'm trying to make is that that's incredible. That just shows how insane this band was, and it is one of those unfortunate instances where sometimes the best bands on the planet can't stay together because of the personality issues or drugs or whatever. We're going to get into the other side of that here in just a minute with Matt's pick. But it, and so I'm glad that we got at least how many albums did they make with Roger Waters? Like what? They made another four? What? They made like damn near 15 while
Mhm.
Roger was still in the band. So you get up to 15 just incredible albums of just masterpiece work. And I do feel like out of those four albums that we mentioned, this one gets slept on the most, unfortunately,
I
because
agree.
it's insane.
Yeah, I do hear a bunch of talk, especially from Dark Side of the Moon or Wish You Were Here, or The Wall. Those are mainly, but Animals isn't really talked about a whole lot, I feel like, and it's right in the middle of everything. And it's fantastic. I think something that might hurt it is it being only 5 tracks, and not a lot of people have that time and attention span to listen to a 15 plus minute song. But if you do, I mean, it's not a waste of time at all. It's you're gaining, if anything, those 17 minutes of track time. Like nothing else really compares to that. It's like a song length of like a Rush song, but it's a little more theatrical. Like it's a little bit more bite to it. And then songs too, like Sheep. It has those like really cool effects and distortions that they were doing with their guitars, and a bunch of different like sounds coming on. Songs on Pigs also, you hear like pig squeals and harmonics and stuff. So they know what they're doing. They knew
Mhm.
what they were doing.
Yeah. And then, before this album came out, it was Wish You Were Here. So it has that like electronic dedication to Sid Barrett feel. And then this album, and then The Wall. Like we've all just talked about, there's so many good Pink Floyd albums, and everybody's got their favorite, but uh, there's not a bad album out there. Some of the more experimental stuff they've done, like with Uma Guma, that crazy acoustic album, and then just samples at the end. That's a great album. That showcases what this band was capable of doing, even if they didn't want to make hit songs. Just a great band. And I've been slowly introducing my son to Pink Floyd with songs here and there, and I'm excited for when he finds a love for this band because I feel like most people do. It took me a while. I think I was in
Mhm.
high school before I found love for Pink Floyd. I remember my
Yeah.
mom saying, someday you're gonna like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and I can't wait till that day happens. And I was like, no, I'm into my hip hop and my rock music. But once you find these bands, it's like it's a wake up call musically, spiritually in a sense, because you find these songs, and drugs have a lot to do with it when you're in high school like that. But Pink Floyd and marijuana, nothing wrong with that. That's kind of my introduction to them. And I remember
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon, the way that album starts off with Breathe, and then
Hmm.
I just remember taking bong hits and being tripped the fuck out because this music was just
Hmm.
so unique. Like I'd never heard anything like that, and just it invoked an emotion within you, and it
Hmm.
still does to this day. And there's not many bands that do that for me, but Pink Floyd is one of them. So
Yeah, I remember what fucking almost 4 years ago at this point going through my breakup, and that's when I mean, that's when we covered The Wall and we did the video watching the movie. That was like because I always was a fan of, like Another Brick in the Wall, some pick and choose songs off of that album. But that was like my deep dive into Pink Floyd. And I remember just like laying on my bed when I couldn't sleep and just putting my headphones in and listening to like fucking Us and Them, Dogs, fucking Breathe, Echoes off of Pompeii. Like they are just this monumental band. And I think it's great, like you mentioned, getting your kid into Pink Floyd. Like he's got it made in the shade, like I did back, 4 years ago, because you have all the albums at your fucking fingertips
yeah,
and all of this other stuff. And, whenever the time comes, show him the video of Floater doing dogs, because that's probably one of my most watched YouTube videos of all time. If I'm being completely frank with you, that shit knocks my socks off every other time I watch it. Um, but yeah, and another thing I wanted to point out is like Roger Waters kind of has he has like a little bit more aggression like in his voice during some of this, like during Sheep, when it's doing that like doom 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 doom, like he's you better watch out, like just really getting it. Dogs the same way. The lyrical content to this is a little bit more, because it does deal with like the socio-political problems that were going on in the 70s over in Europe, but there is like a lot of more, it just feels more aggressive like from a lyrical standpoint, and then to pair lyrics like that where you really dissect them and it is deep, but also there's like a lyric, one of my favorite lyrics on Dogs to sing along to is like you'll get the chance to put the knife in. It's like you talk about stabbing somebody, but then this is like one of the most psychedelic, fucking crazy, long drawn out journeys of a song of all time. And so to pair, once again, I just love when you get to when you have a pairing like that. So I think that's one of my biggest draws to this album, to be completely honest with you. Uh, Dogs, Pigs, Sheep, that 3-track run is incredible. I know it's like we're talking about 3-track runs on a 5-song album where two of them are basically the same. So I know I'm really trying to squeeze blood from a stone here, but yeah, I mean, what's with all the fucking pigs, man? But shall we do some top threeing it up? Anybody got any closing arguments here?
Great band, great album. I'm glad that we've talked about multiple Pink Floyd albums because, they are one of the best ever. And I'm glad we all have a love for them and admire their music. So good pick.
Yeah, I
Thank
know now what is up with all those pigs. It makes sense now. My third eye is open.
Oh man, just pigs. I just love like the ha ha Shira you
Mhm.
wow. Like there is just so much groove within this album, and like to dissect like the music of Dogs. We just keep mentioning it in passing. I'll do it real quick before we wrap up here. Um, just that the coda that it keeps coming back to of that like that guitar part literally is what made me get back into guitar playing, was because I was listening to that and I was like, I want to, it was that and Mayonnaise by Smashing Pumpkins. I was like, I want to play those two songs. I'm getting a new guitar. We're going in. And that's the rest is history. Um, but yeah, just Dogs, like that whole, it's just a masterpiece. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and do top threes. My three, two, one, or my honorable mentions are Pigs on the Wing 1 and 2. Great opening and closing. It always reminds me of the William Shatner, what is that, Twilight Zone? There's something on the wing. Uh,
Yes.
Good stuff there. And then 3 is Pigs. Love that song. Just super, just that it makes you do like the a good little head bob, like you're listening to a good hip hop song. And the number 2 is Sheep. Love that super trancy intro is incredible. And the number 1, I think it's going to be our consensus number 1 is Dogs. Just one of the best songs in their catalog, to be completely honest with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think so too. We're gonna be pretty similar here. For me, honorable mention, Pigs on the Wing 1. For me, number 3, Pigs on the Wing 2. I like that ending. I just kind of like the lyrics a little bit more. Number 2 was Pigs, and the number 1 was Dogs.
Heck
Hell
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, we're very similar with the 5-track selection, but for me, honorable mention was Picks on the Wing 2. I like the way that ends the album. Great song. And then 3, 2, 1, Sheep, very different song for the album. Pigs, three different ones, and then Dogs, that's the one. That is the one.
Hell yeah. Incredible work. And that album is incredible in and of itself. And that album is 1977's 10th album by Pink Floyd, Animals. Do yourselves a favor, go ahead and listen to it. Also, if you if you are a fan of this album and you're listening to this because you like this, or if you listened along and you are like, this album kicks ass, uh, Les Claypool's Flying Frog Delirium, one of their live albums, is
Mm.
just this album played live by them. And it's got Jay Lane and Jeff Chimenti, who would end up being in Dead and Company with the surviving members of the Grateful Dead. So go ahead and check that out. It's a good one. And then there's a YouTube video of dogs being played by Floater from the show that we all went to. And like I said, one of my most watched YouTube videos of all time. But we'll be right back to go about 20 years into the future from where we currently are in 1977 to go to Matt's pick for this week. It's What You Spend in episode 111. I'm Dorian, that's Matt, and that's Jake. We'll see you in about 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Peace. cover of the book. It's going to be me on the cover with my sleeves rolled up like this. It's going to be called Somehow I Manage. Uh,
I was waiting for that title.
it's called Somehow I Manage. Anyway, what's up, y'all? We just had a great damn time talking about Pink Floyd's Animals, which was my pick for this week. We're gonna move right along 20 years from when that album came out to 1997 with Matt's pick for this week. I'm super stoked to talk about this one. I was listening to it this morning as I was running around. So why don't you get it introed so I can chomp at the bit like I am?
You're right. 20 years later, 1997, going with an album by a band called Days of the New. The album is self-titled, or some people call it the Yellow Album. Days of the New did 3 albums and maybe a couple live solo albums by Travis Meeks, but kind of a short stint. But this album is unique to me because I was introduced to it by a friend of mine who I'm still friends with today, probably back in the early 2000s. And he played guitar, and I was just learning how to play guitar. I don't play very well now because I didn't really stick with it, but learning how to play guitar with people that know how to play is a vast way to learn how to play the guitar. And I've done that throughout my life with people I knew in high school and stuff like that. So just learning from him, and he taught me about, or he showed, yeah, there you go. He showed me this band, and I just fell in love. I had heard Shelf in the Room before. I've done that song karaoke. That's fun because yeah, kind of get the Eddie Vedder going. But this is just a different album. It's acoustic, which I like to talk about, talking about Another Stony Evening or Dave Matthews, things like that. This is kind of in that realm as well. But Travis Meeks lyrically kind of cool. He was pretty young when he made this album, either 17 or 18 years old. He cites Dead Can Dance as an inspiration, which is fucking random, but full circle. That's what we do here. Uh, for me, this is just a fun album. It's got some unique songs, and he's just, I don't know, doing his thing. Cool guy, and yeah, what'd you guys think?
Yeah, this is another one that I'm glad was brought up because I knew Touch, Peel, and Stand. Couldn't have told you that that was the name of the song. I just knew it as the Ones Who Abuse song. That kind of. But it's a hell of an album, top to bottom. Another one of those instances where I know why that song is so popular because I personally fucking love it. But there are just hidden gems all over this album. Uh, and you mentioned it, the acoustic on this is nuts. You and I were talking about it. Uh, Whoever's doing the solo on Touch, Peel, and Stand Alone is like Tim Reynolds, just
Yeah.
plus a little bit with a little extra grungy zest on it, just incredible work, because I mean, fuck, we've all played an acoustic guitar. Shit, you can't bend the strings like that, man. It's hard as fuck.
Oh,
That's why Dave Matthews and Tim get paid the big bucks and we sit here and talk about them. Okay? It's because we can't, it's not normal to be able to do that. But anyway, uh, yeah, man, top to bottom, great album. I love that even though it's an acoustic guitar, there is still an electric bass and like a full drum set being used, like not even using brushes. So the way that this album was recorded is very, very nice. The percussion kind of does drive this album at times, particularly for little song stints. Whether that be the drummer himself or the guitar players kind of doing like the like palm mute stuff. But yeah, I'm a big, big fan of this album. Like I said, I'm very glad that you brought it up because obviously Touch, Peel, and Stand, everybody and their mom knows that song because it's a goddamn banger, to be honest with you. But there's other great stuff on this stuff, They have other albums, as we like to say.
They do have other albums, but they're not like this, I would say. I haven't heard the other ones, but just primarily the hit songs were off of this album. Um, I also heard Touch Peel and Stand before, but I didn't know it was from these guys, and I didn't ever think I'd listen to a full album of theirs.
Yeah. Well, anybody
Um,
that took a high school weights class in Lane County heard
yeah.
Touch, Peel, and Stand because of 105.5 Bob FM. Like that's just that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you probably heard of it, but it's good. Yeah, it's like an acoustic for the most part. And it's damn good acoustic playing, to say the least. Some of the songs are pretty funny too. Like I thought Freak was pretty funny. Like the lyrics on that, dude's definitely a foot guy. Um, but it was fun. Fun album. Really liked it. I definitely gotta listen to it a little bit more. I didn't get enough of it. But for the most part, for it being like an acoustic, it's pretty chill, pretty relaxed. It's nothing too crazy. And I like that. You could just kind of throw it on at any point of the day when you're cooking, when you're doing whatever, and it's a good listen.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like the first five tracks off the album kind of introduce you to the vibe, and then it just changes with What's Left for Me, and it kind of works its way down to Freak, another good standout track. How Do You Know You? Lyrically and just musically, that song stood out for me. He's just like emotionally, he's just into that song. And I felt like it's a self-reflection, maybe. I don't know. It's one of my favorite standout tracks. Um, and Travis Meeks is a unique individual. He had his ups and downs. He did two other live album or not live albums, but studio albums. And they're basically just two and three, the Green album and the Red album. The second album is very unique. I would check that one out if you guys are into this music at all. That's the next one I would go with. The third one's great as well, but they're all different, unique. He does his thing guitar wise and lyrically, and he did have some issues with drugs. I was on the show Intervention. I remember watching that years ago, and I'm pretty sure he kind of climbed out of that rabbit hole that he was in with meth, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure how he got into that, but it's the fucking famous story of you're young and 17 and you're a millionaire because you made a hit song, and then you kind of go down that path, and it seems like that's kind of what happened to him. I don't know all the details, but I do know that he did bounce back out and didn't fall into that trap like a lot of people do with addiction. So it's your typical Hollywood story. But this is just a fun album. Like I said, it's more of a personal album for me just because it has to do with a friend and guitar and like all those things intertwining together. And Shelf in the Room is, yeah, that kind of stood out for me as like, oh, okay, I need to check these guys out a little bit more. So I'm glad you guys liked it.
I'm sorry. I think you mentioned it earlier when we were off mic. It was fucking Travis Meeks 17 when they made this album.
17 or 18, yeah. He was pretty young.
No
Wow.
fucking way, man.
Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about musicians that were super young. Floater
Yeah.
was, I think, Rob was, I think,
Yeah.
17 or 18, just getting out of high school, South Eugene. There we go. But yeah,
Jesus
super
Christ.
creative, intelligent musicians now making
Yeah.
this music. When I was 17, I was a fuck off, dude. I got,
Yeah.
yeah, come
Yeah.
on, right? So I have a lot of respect for people that are able to fine tune that
Hmm.
skill and push it out somewhere. And I'm glad
Yeah.
that musically and we get to hear these great albums. So.
Yeah. And it is like you mentioned, it is an unfortunate circumstance of, fame that young. Unfortunately, not everybody ends up like you mentioned it, a Rob Wynea who made Sync, which, we just covered that album. Incredible work at such a young age. He's decently popular still, or, like still performing at least. And Travis Meeks, it's like we just talked about with Pink Floyd. They, it's hard to sustain a band with people like that, and like Matt, we've both read Scar Tissue by Kiedis, and he was like the own issue for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Like him and Frusciante, and unfortunately Hillel were just so wildly out of their goddamn minds on heroin that they couldn't keep. It's a miracle what I'm trying to say is it's a miracle that that band is still together at all, because you could go the way of Days of the New and Pink Floyd that kind of turn a current sound on its fucking head, because grunge music, this is 1997, grunge music had kind of had its day in the sun and more or less was dying out for the likes of new metal, Korn and Slipknot, all those guys were coming up. um so and unfortunately it's grunge music, which is it was notorious for bands not being able to stick together because the lead singer kills themselves or is
Yeah.
strung out too much, and unfortunately Travis Meeks was. And I do like he at least showed tenacity with being able to, he's like, fuck it, I know that I made one of the greatest songs of the grunge movement, but I'm gonna keep trying to at least have a solo career because he's a talented dude, you know. And another thing that kind of ties it all together is I I want to go back and, or no, actually, completely fuck that thought. I love that they kind of were an unplugged band, because like the biggest thing that a lot of those grunge artists did back in the day, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, and a couple others, was they went on MTV Unplugged, and those albums are incredible. Alice in Chains and Nirvana Unplugged are like two of my favorite live albums because they're nuts. They're just crazy. And I think it's kind of funny, 1997, after those albums have already come out, Days of the New is like, we don't need to do an unplugged because we are, baby. It's just very cool. And I can't remember, I wish I would have read up on it this morning, but I remember Travis, I read something somewhere when we were first listening to these albums that Travis Meeks is he at the time he was like so musically inclined and like thought about music and writing music in such a unique way that it like stood out to me because he was quoted as saying something along the lines of, with an electric guitar you can only do so much before you start adding pedals and everything, and it like kind of takes away from the player, which is a very astute point, to be quite frank with you. And he's like, but the acoustic guitar, it's like such a classic instrument that that's where you show off, and I agree.
Mhm.
um Also, to his credit, he was writing fucking grunge music, which is why everybody did unplugged concerts, because playing grunge music on an acoustic guitar is actually fun as hell, you know? Like you just get to do it's just anyway, that's my soapbox.
I like it. Good. Yeah, good point. Pearl Jam did that acoustic unplugged on MTV back in the 90s, and that's a fucking great showcase of how you
Yes.
do that right there. Yeah.
So it was there was another one because I don't think Soundgarden did one. I wanted to say Pearl Jam, but I wasn't positive.
The Pearl Jam did because
Pearl Jam did.
there's a on Spotify you can download the or listen to the album in its
Okay.
entirety. There's a few
Okay.
other bands. Nirvana did, of course, but I don't know
Corn.
if Soundgarden did or if anybody else did. I feel like a few
Yeah.
other grunge bands probably did. Maybe Alice
Yeah.
in Chains. I feel like they probably did.
They did for sure. I'll look
Yeah.
it up. I'll report back. I know Corn did, but that's a little after grunge. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fun album, so I'm glad you guys all dug it. And yeah,
hell yeah. Shall we?
let's dive in. Uh, for
Hit
me,
me.
for me, I'm gonna go with on my honorable mention, "Shelf in the Room," just because that's kind of the first song that drew me into this band in general, and kind of went from there. And then 3, 2, 1, "What's Left for Me," just kind of a somber, slower song. "Freak," Jake kind of summed it up lyrically, and it's just a fun like "I'm a freak," yeah. And then "How Do You Know You" was my favorite song. So
Nice. For me, honorable mention was Freak. I thought it was funny. I like when an artist, a band can just kind of have fun with it and not so much making a joking song, but more like just like a fun one to throw in. It's just, for some laughs. Number three for me was also What's Left for Me. Number two, Touch, Peel, and Stand. And then you know me, I'm a sucker for instrumentals, so the bonus track, the boner track, that one's good too. Also, fun title. It's funny.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's fun when an artist does a joke that you would make and you're like, because I'm like, oh, I'm an 11-year-old in a 29-year-old's body. I would be calling it a boner track. So
Yep.
very tongue in cheek. I like that they did that. I'll go ahead and finish her off. Honorable mention for me is Face of the Earth. Just love that Face of the Earth. And there's like some cool vocal effect going on there. Number three for me is Solitude. Really liked that song. That was kind of like a later. I've been liking that one more here recently, and so it broached into the top three. Number two for me, Touch, Peel, and Stand. I just cannot get over that. Like that verse drum part is like so syncopated and just it's like one of the most technical parts of the album, which is hilarious that it's a drum part when the acoustic playing is so monumental. And the number one for me is What's Left for Me. Just love that song is just composed brilliantly, which again, that's why I was like, wait, they did this when he was like 17 or 18? That's fucking crazy because that is like leaps and bounds. That's like shows real musical shit right there. So, What's Left for Me is my favorite song off this album. Rock
sweet.
on. Alrighty. Well, that was the second album for the day, which was Matt's pick from 1997. Is that their debut
That
album?
is their debut. Yes.
Days of the New, the yellow version. Uh, and that's we're almost done with episode 111 of What You Spinning. We're going to stick in the 90s. We're going to go back about 3 years, but we're going to keep it grungy, keep it a little, you know, it's fun. This is a fun episode. We've had a lot of fun so far, and there's still a lot of fun to be had. But go ahead and stick around for me. We're going to go with Jake's pick next. It's What You Spinning, episode 111. See ya. What up, y'all? It's What You Spin in episode 111. We just had a hell of a time talking about Matt's pick for this week from 1997, which was some good acoustic, grungy, really actually some technical shit going on. Go ahead and listen to that album. And if you're skipping to this part of the podcast, what the hell are you doing? Skip to that part. That was a good album too. Come on. But this is a monumental album within this genre that we're about to talk about. I'm super stoked to talk about this. Jake, what the hell you got for me, man?
Yeah, it's almost kind of similar. Another grunge album of the 90s. Super Unknown by Soundgarden came out in 94. I almost said 74. That'd be crazy. But it came out in 94, their fourth album. Yes, fourth studio album. Really kind of made Soundgarden a lot more mainstream, more popular. They have another other great albums before this, like Bad Motorfinger is fantastic. Also, definitely give that one a listen. But yeah, this album just recently was 20th anniversary. I guess that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's a pretty classic 90s rock grunge album. Definitely some heavy hitter songs on here, some mainstream ones. It's got a lot of replay value to it and a bunch of also hidden tracks that, maybe you haven't heard in a while or haven't heard in general, that are kind of, you know, under not underperforming, but not as popular as the other mainstream ones. But it's a pretty solid album. I have a lot of appreciation for this. I grew up listening to this. What did you guys think about it?
Yeah, it's monumental. It's massive. It's huge. This is one of the thrash metal had the big four. This is one of the big four of grunge. It's crazy that this is their fourth album because I feel like it's arguably their biggest and most popular. I mean, it has Black Hole Sun on it. We'll get into that song eventually. Um, which is kind of crazy, especially for one of these grunge bands, like the debuts all popped off. You know what I mean? Like Alice in Chains' first one did, fucking Pearl Jam, Nirvana, like all of those debuts just skyrocketed. And the fact that Soundgarden had to do four before they really they were popular, but like you said, Bad Motorfinger's an incredible album. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But this is like you said, the album that put them on the map. And so it's kind of interesting to see that disparity because Soundgarden, anytime somebody mentions grunge, Soundgarden is one of the first artists that comes up, right? Because they are part of that, big four, I guess. And like you said, there's some hidden gems on here, just like I said about fucking Days of the New. Let Me Drown is one of the strongest openers, I think, out of any of these massive grunge albums or out of any of these albums we've covered in a handful of episodes. Just gets you going and everything, and you're like, oh shit, this is the album that has Spoonman and Black Hole Sun on it. Shut up. And Let Me Drown's the opener? That like there's You're telling me this wasn't the big one? So yeah, big fan of it. I always love revisiting Soundgarden. Happens for me every couple of years. But now listening to this and Days of the New, I started a grunge playlist like when we first started listening to these albums. So that's being stirred up inside me. So love this pick. Great one.
Heck yeah. Yeah, this is Soundgarden's breakthrough album. I feel like most of the grunge bands had theirs. Pearl Jam, their debut was 10, and that was like their breakthrough album. That was huge. That's kind of what this album is for Soundgarden. It was their huge album. All the hits are on this. And for someone like me who kind of gravitated more towards that Eddie Vedder grunge, like I preferred his vocal as opposed to Chris Cornell. Nothing wrong with Chris Cornell's vocal at all. He's a great musician, but I just liked Pearl Jam better. So I didn't really dive into Soundgarden a lot. So being able to listen to this album entirely is was great because there's songs I've never heard before. You just know the hits on this album. Songs like Mailman, it's fucking progressive and like toolish. It's just like functified. Man, I'm so glad that this album was brought up because I probably not would have not listened to it at all just because I know like Fell on Black Days and some of those tracks. So Chris Cornell, great musician, the whole band doing their thing. This is one of the staples of the 90s grunge era, and I'm glad we're talking about it. So good album.
Well, you don't want your kids stealing bread.
No.
So, I mean, you got to be careful with Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder because
Yeah.
Some references are just for me and Matt, and that was one of them. So thank you all for if you know, you know, comment
You
down
know,
below.
you know.
Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead,
and
Jake.
you gotta be careful what you're listening to also, because like I remember as a kid, uh, I have older cousins, and I would hang out with them when we would, have family get-togethers at my grandpa's, grandpa's, and they had a garage where they had a pool table, and they were getting older, we were all getting older, and they were like getting into a skating phase, so they were smoking weed, listening to hip hop, listening to rap, rock, all of this. And I remember they had Fell on Black Days playing the music video. And me as a little kid just glued onto the TV, just watching this. And they just kept playing it over and over and again. I kept watching it. I was just so obsessed with the black and white, with the guitar playing, everything about it. It's just like fried in my brain listening to it. And it's a fantastic song too. The other songs, like the bigger songs, they're great. Everyone's heard of Black Hole Sun. But then you have songs like The Day I Try to Live, where it has that like cool, like you said, Matt, kind of Tool-esque in the sense that it has like odd time signatures with the drumming, with the guitar, also the tuning. Also, they use a lot of drop D tuning all over this album. So it's pretty different in those senses. So it's pretty cool that they're, doing different things, and a bunch of songs are some are faster, some are slower. So yeah, it's a for them to have not so much waited, but it took 4 albums for them to really, pop off. It's kind of crazy that it didn't happen sooner. But yeah, this album was, it was pretty big for a reason, because it's pretty good.
Well, it kind of goes back to the conversation we had regarding Pink Floyd and like, somebody, to use, Matt trying to get his son into Pink Floyd, oh, you have all of this stuff and it's like you listen to The Wall and then you listen to Dark Side and you're like, wait, this came out before that? And it's Soundgarden's the same way because, we talked about Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown is everybody's starting point, as it should be, to be quite frank. But then you're like, wait a minute, this wasn't their first one? And then you listen to shit off like Bad Motorfinger and those albums that came in between. And it's like, oh no, yeah, there's like they were actually kind of kicking it, but uh maybe it was like a timing thing because this album came out in 94. I can't remember when the other ones came out, but anyway, I digress.
There
Older,
was a
really.
3 year gap between Bad Motorfinger and this album, which is
Mhm.
wild to me.
That's
But
nuts.
yeah, right? That's crazy. 91 to 93, yeah. I guess a 2 year gap, but still.
What the hell?
Or
That's
sorry,
so
90, no,
crazy.
it's 91 to 90 because this came out in 94. So yeah,
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 that's so nuts.
yeah.
Huh. And this is like, we've talked about a lot of albums like from this era, like from 93 to 99, and it kind of reminds me of not like a musical thing, but you like kind of look at the release of it and everything and how popular the band got after the fact, when they had already had a backlog, a decent sized backlog. 3 albums is nothing to fucking sneeze at. But it reminds me of when we talked about Blood Sugar Sex Magic. The Red Hot Chili Peppers had put out what, like 4 albums prior to
Mhm.
that?
Mhm.
And then that came out and it's got Give It Away, Suck My Kiss, all these incredible songs on it. And it's like, yeah, that's your jumping on. Like, I think I think Soundgarden's is a little more unique because of how popular grunge got like that, like it was literally
Yeah.
a switch went off and Nirvana was the biggest band in the world. And so it's like, how the hell did like how the hell did Soundgarden not get that same love right off the jump? But yeah, like I've said, Super Unknown is an incredible album. As much as you remember the Fell on Black Days music video being ingrained in your brain, that opening to Black Hole Sun and that music video are permanently ingrained in mine as well. Just iconic, massive, monumental. We could use all of those verbs or adjectives for it.
Mhm. Yeah, and Bad Motorfinger is another great album too. That's kind of where I resonate with Rusty Cage, standout tracks like that. But then this album kind of sets them apart and shows all their things. And that music video for Black Hole Sun and the melting faces and the visuals of that video alone is an iconic MTV like moment right there. And you don't see that ever. You'll never see that again with music videos. But
Mm.
um, the guitar playing. I don't think we talked enough about that, but Kim Thayil, he's a great guitar player, man. Holy cow.
That's his
This guy is
fucking name.
breaking it down with his grungy style, his kind of Adam Jones take on things. I don't want to compare him to too many people because he's doing his own thing, but I don't know. He's very good guitar player, and I don't think he gets enough credit as that, being kind of a voice for the grunge era and setting himself apart guitar wise.
You're exactly correct. And I'm glad you brought it up because I was racking my brain. I was like, I know this guy's name. I was like, it's Kim. I
I
was like,
couldn't
it's
remember his last
K.
name. I had to look it up. I was like, I know his first name's Kim.
Oh,
What's his last
yeah.
name?
I was like, it's Kim something. But yeah, he's incredible. Like I said, that intro to Black Hole Sun, like that open, like, or like kind of picking through the strings and then that slide, like, and it's crazy because like I can name Stone Gossard, but I can't name, Kim Thale and everything. And once again, but then it is kind of the, I guess, unfortunate thing that happened with these bands, right? Like grunge bands, they were all known for their lead singer. Um, Eddie Vedder, Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, Jerry Cantrell, and Stone Gossard are a little bit more known, but Soundgarden, it was like Chris Cornell and then his backing band, because of how monumental he became and everything. Um, with going on to do Audio Slave and all of that. But yeah, man, Kim Thale fucking lays it down. He
Yeah.
does have like that Adam. There is a lot of like Tool adjacent kind of stuff going on. The drumming on Spoon Man is fucking incredible. I remember playing that on Rock Band when I was in middle school, and I was like, "This is crazy, man! I'm beating the shit out of these toms." You feel like you're in the band playing that shit. But yeah, it's top to bottom, just a killer album. Starting off with "Let Me Drown" and then ending with "Like Suicide." Couldn't have laid this album out better myself.
Yeah. The lyrics on it too, they're pretty all over the place, going through addiction and sobriety, a bunch of different things, bunch of trials, tribulations. The producer, Michael Beinhorn, he stated that Aphex Twin was also an inspiration from this. It was pretty cool. Once again, always comes full circle, comes back around.
You know
So
what, man? We love that shit around here. We fucking love Dead Can Dance and Aphex Twin making reappearances here, and we ain't even talking about ambient music or experimental
yeah.
shit, okay?
Yeah. So it's cool when, artists do that, when artists have similarities in that, but it's making just a completely different sound. Like how do you connect Aphex Twin to this? It'd take like 20 clicks off of a Wikipedia page. That's crazy. So yeah, I'm glad you guys liked it. Like I mentioned, I've grown up with this album a lot. I've listened to it a bunch. A lot of hidden tracks that don't get talked about enough. I feel like should definitely be listened to. So let's
Absolutely.
bring him up. What do you guys think about getting into top threes?
I have one last thing to say, just because you just
Okay.
brought it up, and it's kind of about this, but not. When you guys hear something like that, like Dead Can Dance influencing Days of the New or Aphex Twin influencing this album, do you guys try to listen to that album and try to figure out where it is, like where that influence is? Or am I the only one that
Sometimes.
tries to do that? Because sometimes it will be like pretty obvious. I mean, we covered
Yeah.
Crosses and it was like, oh, Depeche Mode influences. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, fucking obviously. But I sometimes I try to do that. Like I'll read or I'll hear you guys say it after the pod and I'll go back and I try to find it.
Hmm.
I don't know I'll be able to find an Aphex Twin influence in here, but hey,
Yeah.
whatever they say, hey man, I'm not gonna argue with them. It's whatever they said, okay? Um, hell yeah, man. But yeah, yeah, let's top three it up. I just wanted to see if I was the only one that does that. Clearly I am. Try it out sometime and let me know if you find it. But anywho, hit me, baby.
Yeah, let's do it. For me, honorable mention, Black Hole Sun, just because I mean that's the song everyone knows, everyone's heard of it. But there's some better songs. Number three for me was Limo Wreck. That's a pretty fun song. Number two, Super Unknown. And then my favorite track, I've always loved listening to it. Fell on Black Days. It's just stuck in my head.
Wonderful. Yeah, honorable mention for me is Super Unknown. Love that song, kind of all pretty close to the middle of the album there, which is always, I love a hidden title track, always fun. Number three for me is Black Hole Sun. Just like I said, man, that's a song I've loved since I was knee high to a grasshopper. Number two for me is Let Me Drown, that intro song. Like I said, one of the harder intros that we've seen in a minute on this show. And the number one for me is The Day I Tried to Live. That was one that I had kind of forgot, like not forgotten about, but I was like, oh man, I didn't realize how good the song actually was. So that's my favorite off of this album.
Yeah, honorable mention for me just for the video and it's classic Soundgarden with Spoon Man. It's just a fun song and lyrically and musically a great track. And then 3, 2, 1, The Day I Tried to Live kind of slows it down, speeds it up at the same time. I liked My Wave because it was kind of poppy Soundgarden. It was something way different. I don't feel like there's any other track that sounds like that. And then I like Mailman. That was like, this is
Nice.
Soundgarden? What? How have I not heard this song? So really glad that we brought this album up for that song in particular. So thank you.
Absolutely. I
Nice.
agree. I am also glad that you brought this up because Let Me Drown is a banger. So good shit on you. Uh, it's another one that it's like, how haven't we talked about this yet? You know, and it makes me realize we also haven't covered even Nevermind or Unplugged by Nirvana,
Right.
um, which either of those are bangers. But anyway, we'll talk about those sometime, I'm sure. But for now, that was Jake's pick for this week. Superunknown by Soundgarden, released in 1994. We'll be right back to wrap it up and tell you what's coming in about 2 weeks' time for episode 112. But go ahead and stick around for me. I'm Dorian, that's Matt, and that's Jake. We'll be back in two shakes. Peace. Bum, bum, gow. All right, fellas, and the viewers at home, it is time for everybody's favorite part where we tell you what's coming next. And we go in the order that we talked about today's albums, and I am going off of recency. I mentioned that I went and saw this motherfucker live a week
Mm.
ago. I'm going with the debut album of Kid Cudi, Man on the Moon, The End of Day. I was torn between three albums, but I feel like this one is well-rounded enough. We love a debut album around here. It has like two of my top five favorite songs by this guy on it.
Classic.
So yeah, released in 2009, Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi.
Sweet. I'm excited for that because I've never listened to that artist. So heck yeah, always love that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
bring up industrial techno kind of genre. It's a band that I saw live when I saw Gary Newman in Ministry a couple years back. Frontline Assembly from 2023 or from 2013. It's called Echo Genetic. Frontline Assembly.
Hell yeah. You were listening to them. We were listening to them on the drive to and from the card show.
You were.
Wonderful.
That looks sick. That album cover looks like some fucking Matrix shit.
Right?
That's cool. I'm excited for that. For me, it's getting sunny out. I like to roll my windows down when I drive, and now that I got a new car, I'm gonna be doing that a lot and hopefully try to bring the property value down with this album. I got Spaceships on the Blade by Larry June. Came out in 22, I think. A little bit of a newer pick, but it's a solid one.
Nice. I love Larry June. I don't know if I've heard that one though. Hell yeah, dude. Once again, man, we knocked it out of the park. We had three great albums today with Animals by Pink Floyd, Days of the New, Yellow Version by Days of the New, and Super Unknown by Soundgarden. That was episode 111 of What You Spinnin'. But for episode 112, you got three more bangers. You got Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi, Echo Genetic by Frontline Assembly, and then Spaceships on the Blade by Larry June. Three great albums, I'm sure. I know mine's pretty badass, just gonna say. But anyway, this has been What You Spinnin', episode 111. We thank you for joining us. We hope you tell everyone that you know about this podcast. We are everywhere that you can listen to podcasts, YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, everywhere. Outside of that, follow me on Instagram at Dorian Dilly, getting better about posting stuff on there, at What You Spinnin' as well. I've been talking to people about how to get better about doing shit like that. Furthermore, go ahead and go to Moonrock Records, Hooker Sports Cards, A&J Sports Cards, visit your local record store and card shop. Even if you're not in, like, I had someone ask me, "Hey, do you know anything about wrestling cards?" And I said, "Not 100%, but if you have a wrestler, I can look for him." And I'm looking at two cards right here that I've pulled aside for a friend that doesn't collect sports or Pokemon or anything other than that. Um,
Nice.
so, but yeah, more importantly, go visit your local record store, support your local businesses. Uh, be a friend, tell a friend if you think of somebody, or if you listen to a song or think of somebody, send it to them. I love when people do that shit. But more importantly, tell people about the show. We will catch you next time. Be safe, stay hydrated, stay cool. I'm Dorian, that's Matt, and that's Jake. We are What You Spinning. This has been number 111. We love you for sticking around. Peace out, Joe.